Hi, Anna.
Yeah.
Hey, we are at Harvard University standing in front of the Houghton Library. We're not absolutely sure that Anne Sexton spent much time on campus. I imagine she did.
But
maybe
as a
even went into the
Bostonian.
library. Yeah, Boston area person. We've got a poem by Anne Sexton called Housewife. It's quite a poem. Would you read it and then
Sure.
we'll talk about it for 5 minutes?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Housewife. Some women marry houses. It's another kind of skin. It has a heart, a mouth, a liver, and bowel movements. The walls are permanent and pink. See how she sits on her knees all day, faithfully washing herself down. Men enter by force, drawn back like Jonah into their fleshy mothers. A woman is her mother. That's the main thing.
So the woman marries a house rather than a man, and from then on we get an extended analogy.
Right.
And what are some aspects of that analogy?
Well, it's a play on the word housewife, right?
Right.
That it's not, if a person is a housewife, they're married to the house, not to a person.
That's right. And so what are some aspects? I mean, the walls are permanent and pink, so it's kind of a bodily, and one sense is fleshy, and there's a sexuality here.
Sure.
What else?
Or is like a sort of play on the gendered notion of a house being, the sort of domestic space being a woman's domain, a woman's her sense of self is derived from how she keeps her house, how she maintains her house, how she presents her house to others.
But the coupling gets very confused, which is not surprising with Anne Sexton, because if men enter by force, then we have to start thinking that the house has become a woman, or in fact the woman, that the places were switched.
Yeah. It's a bizarre kind of objectification. It's like turning a woman into a house. It's another kind of skin that she's wearing. So men enter by force, implying like a kind of sexual violence.
Obviously, I guess I should have said that, but so men enter by force, but in the analogy, in this extended conceit, they enter the house, but the house has become then a woman, so it's not some women marry houses, some women become houses. Yeah. And the men enter by force, so there's the violence of sexual violence of that, but they are like Jonah into their fleshy mothers, so not wives, but mothers. The woman is, her mother is italicized.
Right. That's so complicated. You want to try that one first?
She's very emphatic about the italic.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know, I guess maybe it's a play on
it's psychoanalytic as well, which we
all
don't
become our parents, right, at a certain point.
Yeah.
And once a woman becomes a mother, that's kind of all you are sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of her gendered reading is once you become a wife, once you become a mother, that's just your identity. It's just been taken up by those facts.
Let's consider the last line. I'm interested in the diction and the tone and the discourse this comes from, because it's not poetic discourse. That's the main thing. It suggests what?
That's the takeaway.
That's the takeaway, yeah. And it also implies that there's much more one can say about this. That's the main thing.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, now let's look at the diction and the tone and the discourse sphere where the first line comes from. Some women marry houses. What kind of statement is that? She doesn't say women marry houses. She doesn't say I married a house.
Yeah. Well, I think she's just interested in... I can sort of imagine Anne Sexton just thinking about sort of playing on the word housewife as being such a strange word, really, to describe all of the unpaid, often unrecognized domestic labor that goes into...
That really needs to be said. I'm glad you brought that up.
Right? Traditionally, it's... women's work is not paid or compensated or recognized as being equal to or, the work that the man is doing outside the house, which he then returns to forcefully.
Violently.
Yeah.
See how she sits on her knees all day, faithfully washing herself down. That's extremely confusing, deliberately confusing, partly because if she's the house, then the house is being scrubbed.
Right.
By whom? By the woman herself, the house itself.
The house, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But also there's the connotation that she's scrubbing, that she's doing that work that you just described. It also is probably self-satisfying in a sexual sense.
Possibly, yeah.
All right, final thought.
I would hope at least there's that.
Right, okay. Final thought on this remarkable poem?
Yeah, that's the main thing. I can see that as like kind of a closing sentence of someone who's sort of wandered off and is no longer listening to you. You're trying to just get their attention for one more second. Say, well, that's the main thing. That's what I really wanted to say.
Right.
Housewife's a weird word. That's what I wanted to say.
Right. I want to just, for my final thought, put the last line in the context of the confessional poetry, of which Sexton obviously was the main avatar, along with several others who were all kind of hanging around, the Boston area. Not all of them, but many.
Something in the water up here.
Right. Well, that's the main thing. Has a kind of therapeutic. It comes from a discourse of therapy to some degree. I've got something to say.
Yeah.
I've got a lot I can say. In a feminine mystique, Betty Friedan kind of this is all the stuff that's going on in my life, which everybody assumes is behind closed doors and not worth talking about.
Yeah.
But here I am. I've got much to say, and that's the main thing. Now, let's unpack that, as a therapist would say.
Sure.
Anna, thank you for spending some time with me on this.
Thanks, Al.
Great.
If you liked this episode, watch another and subscribe.
And join us for ModPo, a free and open course at modpo.org.